So to begin with, I want to introduce our first presenter for today, Inbar Oren. Inbar Oren is a SAFE Fellow, Principal Consultant, and SAFE Contributor at Scaled Agile Inc. He helps enterprises achieve better results with lean and agile tools. He also works on developing new releases to the Scaled Agile Framework, specializes in agile project management, agile product management, agile lean product management, Scrum. He's a certified Scrum Master, certified product owner, and management consultant. He is an alumnus of Tel Aviv University and also the creator of the Safe in 9 Minutes video.
Thank you, Shruti, and it was great. And I know we're a little bit behind, so if I'll be able to save a minute or two, I'll try to give some back to the group, so we'll have more for the conversations, as I know that's the most important and interesting part. So I want to start by thanking KnowledgeHut for inviting us to participate in this webinar and share a little bit about business agility and what we're doing with SAFE, and a little bit about some of how our thinking is evolving around the concept of business agility and how it's evolving. And I want to talk to you today about thriving in the digital age, how business agility with SAFE can transport us to a better future. And I'll start with a really short introduction of myself. I'm a developer. I was a team lead, a project manager, product manager. I've been helping enterprises with Agile for over a decade. Before I was at Scaled Agile, I was at Agile Spark, so I know some of the other people who are on this call. I'm happy to see them here. I'm a SAFE Fellow at Scaled Agile. Been with Scaled Agile for a long time already. Worked through the evolution of SAFE LSE, SAFE 4, SAFE 4.5, 4.6, 5.0, 5.1. So really been involved with a lot of it. I do martial arts when I'm not doing SAFE. I've been doing that for even longer than I've been doing SAFE. And because everything is at scale, I also do family at scale. I have 5 kids with 2 sets of twins. So hopefully they won't interfere too much. That's part of the risk of a virtual environment. So if you see any of them, just wave and we'll live with it for the duration. So I want to start just by talking a little bit about the challenges of the digital age before delving a little bit about some of our newer thinking around how business agility and how SAFE can inform and the improvement that can be done by addressing it. So I want to start again by talking about the challenges of the digital age. This is Mix Kirsten. He wrote an amazing book called Project to Product. And then he talks about the fact that those who master large-scale software delivery will define the economic landscape of the 21st century. And he isn't talking about software companies per se. He's talking about any kind of company. If they're not becoming versed with how software impacts their business, be their banks, insurance businesses, hardware businesses, if they're not understanding how software impacts them, they're going to fall behind. And one of the things that he talks in this book is the fact that there are like 5 technological revolutions that have happened so far. Industrial revolution, the age of steam, the age of steel, the age of oil and mass production. And each one of them had an installation period where people were kind of, this new technology, what is it? We're not sure. Is it really a thing? It's not a thing. Some people were dabbling. The people who had the money were trying to test it out. And then there was a turning point. And after that became the deployment period. And anybody who didn't make it through the deployment period was just left behind. Those people who could not make the jump from the previous age to the new age were left behind, and those companies are no longer with us. And we've seen quite a lot of companies disappear lately. And that brings us to kind of the topic that we are at a new age. It's the age of software, the age of digital, the age of cloud, the age of AI. We're all seeing the impact of AI and big data on everything that we're doing right now. What does that mean? So we've seen that grow. We've seen the growth of the software industry, and kind of in the last few years, we've seen this turning point. And we're getting to this deployment period where if we don't adapt, we're seeing more and more companies who just don't know how to adapt, don't know how to react to the new realities of software as the key cornerstone of their business, just disappear and not be with us. So what does that mean? This is John Kotter. In his book Accelerate, he talks about the fact that the world is changing and the rate of change is accelerating all the time. Now, that means that as leaders in organization, we need to think in a different way. What does that mean? So we're all working in really large enterprises, but they all started as small companies. They started with like a really small group that was really dedicated to our customers. We knew our customers. We worked with our customers day to day, and we were successful. So as we were successful, we grew and we started building hierarchy for stability and execution and knowing more about how everything works. And that hierarchy kept growing and providing us a better way of growing our businesses. But at some point, that hierarchy usually crushes the network. And we lose our ability to really innovate. We lose our ability to react quickly to some of the things. We lose some of the touch with the way our customers want us to work. And what Cutter says in the book is that the answer isn't to just ignore the hierarchy. The hierarchy is important. We need to reintroduce the network. We need to rebuild the entrepreneurial network within our large enterprises. And he calls this contract a dual operating system. One that both has the efficiency and stability of the hierarchy that we built into our organizations, as well as the speed of innovation that allows us to react to our customers and move really, really quickly. And with SAFe 5.0, we've really delved into how do we make that a reality? How do we really create SAFe as this connection between the way the functional hierarchy works that is critical for enterprises for their stability, and how do we superimpose on top of it a value stream network that allows us to react more quickly. Now, if we can do that, if we can really create above our organization an easier structure that allows us to react quicker, then we can really start thinking around a deeper topic of business agility. So let's talk about business agility. Let's talk about what it is and what it can help us do. So if we want to look at kind of traditionally how things are looking, we usually have like a really long cycle of innovation in companies. And a best case scenario, it could be 24 months, it might be 5 years, from the time where I have a business opportunity identified to the time I've managed to leverage or maybe already lost the market because it was too late. The funding and budget cycles, we all know how complex those processes are. And then we go into requirements and design and implementation and verification, and we have to redo. And then something happened and we find out we need more budget. And then we have to go back to the budgeting committee. And now we have to stop for 6 months our development until we can go back to the top and ask for more funding. And eventually, we sometimes don't make it. That reaction is just too slow. It wasn't how we worked when we were in network, but in order to make sure we're not overspending or spending the money wrong in the hierarchy that we've built all these safeguards that on the one hand protect us, but on the other hand, slow us down. So what can we do about it? What can we do about it in order to leverage a different opportunity? So this is Dean Leffingwell. He's the creator of SAFe. And he says, business agility is the ability to compete and thrive in the digital age by quickly responding to market changes and emerging opportunities with innovative, digitally enabled business solutions. And for us, business agility means it's across the entire company. It's not just in software development or in IT. It's across the entire organization. It's everybody who's doing development, but also everybody in finance and people and operations and legal and marketing and sales and procurement. Everybody needed in order to deliver innovative business solutions to customers is required if we want to move faster. Let's say I have a really good group that can develop software faster. Well, that's great because the new reality of our business becomes more and more software dependent, but we're still unable to react quickly enough if only the software part evolves because we change the software. What about the business processes? Oh, we can't change the business processes. Or we're building great software, but it's actually not what the business side needed. Or we don't know how to get it well enough to our customers, or we can't communicate it, we can't support it with our customers. So we have to think a lot beyond just a software application or a digital system to a whole business solution. And that means that if we're looking at the same value stream that we looked at before a second ago, we need to really rethink that flow of value from an idea, trigger, to we have a solution that's available to our customers. And we need to apply lean thinking if we want to improve that. Really thinking about what is the value? What are we trying to create here? What's the flow of value? What's making it flow faster or slower? How do we connect the customers to this? And how do we let the customers pool value in opposition to us just pushing stuff out there and assuming and hoping that it's what customers want? And how do we constantly improve that in order to get the best result we can for our customers? Now, that's not an easy thing to do. That requires us to rethink our old process we just looked at coming with the funding, through all that long process that took us a long time to really deliver. And in lean thinking, Taiichi Ohno, who's kind of the thinker behind the Toyota production system, which is a precursor of lean, he said, all we're doing is looking at the timeline from when the customer gives us an order or when we have an idea to when we collect the cash or we deliver a solution. And then we are reducing that timeline by reducing all non-value added waste. Now, interestingly enough, a lot of the problems that we have usually manifest as delays. There are just places where we just wait. There's a process that happens, and then there's a long wait. And then there's another process, and then there's a long wait. And nobody really wants these delays. They just accumulate over the time in our processes for various reasons and delay our ability to actually react to the market. So if we can reduce those delays, we can react faster to the market. So imagine we could create a faster timeline, a faster flow of value. Well, let's call it the business agility value stream. Something that from the time we have a business opportunity identified to the time we have a business opportunity leveraged is 2 to 6 months. And that requires everything we need to do. It goes through thinking through, how do we sense the opportunity? How do we even know that there's an opportunity out there in the market? How do we fund a small part of that just to prove to ourselves that it's even worth pursuing before trying to get the whole big initiative funded? How do we organize around the flow of value? How do we think and create that network that allows us to innovate quickly around that business opportunity? How do we connect to our customers? How do we employ design thinking aspects? How do we employ customer centricity in order to understand what our customer really needs, deliver that small chunk, that minimal viable product, and then see if it resonates with our customers. If it does, great, let's continue, invest more money in it and keep delivering value continuously. If it doesn't, well, we need to pivot. Maybe we need to try something different with our customers and then again, go through this cycle again quickly, testing out a different hypothesis, or say, okay, we learned, we had a great idea and our customers don't need it. Let's move on and create a different idea that we had and not overinvest and throw more money after something we already know doesn't work. If they like, we're going to deliver value continuously. So get to the point where we're using Agile and DevOps to deliver value continuously and then measure and adapt in order to continuously improve this. And what we've built over time in SAFe, especially beginning with SAFe 5.0, is this concept of competencies that help drive these aspects. Whether some of them help drive the ideas of how do we sense opportunities. Some help drive with organizational agility. Some help drive how do we fund and pivot or persevere with the way we're going to change the way portfolios work in our enterprises, really thinking strategy on top and connecting that strategy to fast execution. Some of it has to do more with how do we connect to our customer or how do we deliver value quickly by building an agile product delivery capabilities and connecting it to DevSecOps capabilities. Some of it have more with teams and technical agility. How do we organize teams? How do we organize teams of teams? How do we organize teams of teams of teams? How do we think constantly about that? Some of it is about how do we continuously learn? And then eventually a lot of it is about this lean agile leadership that's at the basis of everything. And this for us defines the 7 core competencies of business agilities. These are the 7 things that if you're good at will help you evolve and speed up that value stream of flow, each one of them helping with a section of it, each one helping remove some of the timeline in order for us to gain more ROI and deliver value to our customer faster, validating that what we're building is the right thing. And I could spend a lot of time, and we don't have that today, going into each one of those competencies or each one of those aspects along the value stream to talk about what's sensing opportunities or how do we build a lean portfolio management. But I want to spend the kind of some of the rest of my time here going into just one of them, which is lean agile leadership, because a lot of the people on this call are leaders. And I want to talk a little bit about the important role of leadership. And you saw it before, it was kind of providing a foundation to everything else that's happening. And in SAFe, we look at the lean agile leadership, the role of leaders as the foundation to everything else. When Agile just started, there was a lot of pushback on we don't need leaders, we'll just train the teams and teams will just run. And when we're talking about really large enterprises, the role of the leaders and their role in this transformation and in achieving agility is crucial. So why is this so important? The reason is that at the end of the day, when we come to change these complex systems, to reinvent the networks, to reinvent ourselves as a system, we need people who have the authority to change the system, who can actually improve the system. Now, people are already probably doing their best, but we need to change the system in order to be more lean and agile. And the only people who have that authority are the leaders of the organization. Now, what do we need you as leaders to do differently in a lean and agile environment? Well, we need to rethink your mindset and principles. What are agile principles? What are lean mindsets? How do we rethink our work around value streams? How do we rethink our words around delays and moving delays? How do we think about resolving those delays? How do we reorganize around networks? That requires a shift in mindset. We also need leaders to lead by example and also lead the change. And when I say lead by example, I mean lead in a different way than we've traditionally seen lead in the old way. It's through authenticity, through really behaving in an agile way and showcasing to others that that's how we're working, that new way of working is different. Decentralizing decision-making and getting everybody to be part of this new lean agile way of working. But it's not just about leading by example, it's also about driving the change, understanding change leadership, understanding how change happened in an organization, how to drive, how to create a sense of urgency, how to build a powerful coalition for change, how to drive the vision for change, and then how to get everybody to be part of the change, not just the leader saying, I'm going to drive this change, but how do I get power employees to be part of this change and bring them along on this journey with us? And the ability to really bring people is so crucial. One of the things that helps drive a lot of the change in SAFe is the SAFe implementation roadmap. And it has a lot of training in it, but it also has a lot of coaching and opportunities for many people. And I think part of the key drivers for this is having the right kind of leaders that help drive this change and advocate for this change and showcase why this change is important and relevant and helps people really advance. And part of the management challenge in what we're doing right now is that it's not enough to say, I want a lot of lean. I want my organization to be more lean. I want a lot of agile. This means me as a leader, I have to understand how I need to change the way I'm leading and how I can showcase that to others so that they can follow in that footsteps and do it. So the way Deming says here, such responsibility cannot be delegated. We need to understand the new ways of working. We need to be able to teach our people, just like we taught them the current ways of working, teach them the new ways of working and bring them with us on this new journey of where we're going. And what we're trying to provide you as part of this is, first, we have our framework that we're evolving constantly that showcases the 7 competencies and everything about how to do SAFe. We have a lot of courseware that exist and certification and recognition to help drive this. We're also now providing a lot more practice tools on our platform that allow people to really run some of those events and do it. But we just provide the backbone. If you want to be successful with this, kind of the other foundation to this, in addition to the leaders in the organization, is our partners. Really having partners like KnowledgeHut and others come and help coach you on your transformation and guide you on this. Get the people who's already done this, who've been through this journey, to help guide you on the journey that you are on. We found that so important. And then help your leaders keep guiding the transformation that it happens, and really make that as a kind of a complete things to really help create more of a safe enterprise that is successful and achieves the results. Because while SAFe, I've spent a lot of time here talking about SAFe and around the 7 core competencies of business agility. At the end, the goal is not to do SAFe. The goal is to work better with our customers, serve them better, be more agile, and achieve what they want, and really showcase some of the results that we've seen from people who are doing SAFe, which is faster time to market, better quality, increase in productivity, happier employees, more engaged customers. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to use the thing that you're doing, that your customers, that your companies are doing, which are all amazing, and provide you with more and better tools to keep innovating, keep accelerating in the digital age, keep being even more successful than you are right now, competing in this new age and thriving, and make the world a better place, which is our goal at SAI. How do we help you make the world a better place by being more lean and more agile? So with that, I want to thank you for listening to my 20 minutes right now, and hopefully we'll have some time to talk a little bit more later, and maybe I'll see some of you in the breakout groups. And if you want, please feel free to reach out to me. And I want to thank again for the opportunity to talk to you about this today, and I hope it was useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inbar. I think you followed the time perfectly, 20 minutes. Thank you so much. So, Samir, should we open up for questions or thoughts right now, or should we go on with the next presenter now?
I think we should just go with Harry now. We've already lost time, and I want to get into the panels.
All right.
Get everybody here.
Sure.
We'll take questions at the end.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Inbar. Happy to present our next presenter for this event, Harry, who's joining us all the way from Vancouver, Canada. He believes that his life's professional mission is to transform the world of business through scaled agile implementations. Harry is an author of the book Legendary Consulting, a certified SAFe coach and trainer, and has been involved in agile implementations for over a decade now. In this process, he's worked closely with about 100 plus business entities and trained over 30,000 professionals from across the world on different business topics. Partnered with KnowledgeHut for the last 7 years, Harry has also judged as one of the top 9 speakers and presenters in North America by Toastmasters International, which is the world's leading authority in communication and leadership. Today, he's going to be presenting his lessons learned from his vast experience in his presentation, which is titled Secrets of Successful Scaled Agile Transformations. Over to you, Harry. Looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Shruti. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all, and I'm glad we're here today. You see, the purpose of my presentation is to add on top of what Inbar already mentioned. SAFe is on a mission to transform the world of business through scaling agility across organizations so that we can eventually transform the results that we're producing and how we serve our customers to a deeper degree. And quick check-in, let's see, are you currently working in some kind of an agile organization or a SAFe organization? If yes, raise your hand, or you can use the reaction feature in Zoom as well. If you go to the bottom of your window, you'll see reactions in there. So quick check-in. Are we working in a current SAFe organization or an agile organization? Okay, most of us. That's great. And do we currently see some kind of challenges in those organizations? You think there is, some opportunity for improvement. You think, we're actually trying to implement agile, but currently things are not working the way we thought they would. Are you currently facing some of those challenges in there? Quick check-in again, raise your hand if you think you are.
Yeah, adapting that agile framework is a little challenge.
100%, right? Transformations are hard, right, Amit?
Yes.
Scaled agile transformations are hard, but as Inbar already mentioned, they are needed. We have developed systems and structures over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades that are now sticking along with us, but need to be transformed to meet the current needs of business. And scaled agile proficiency, as we know, can be an ultimate competitive advantage for our businesses if we implement it the right way. So in my conversation in the next few minutes, I'm going to highlight what are some of those lessons that we've learned from our experience of working with 100 plus companies, training a lot of people, seeing multiple scaled agile transformations from start to end. And what is it that we've learned that makes the difference? What is it that we've learned that actually differentiates the successful from the unsuccessful? And the lessons that we're going to share are based on the Scaled Agile implementation roadmap, the SAFe implementation roadmap that Inbar presented briefly. And you're going to see what are some of those specifics of those roadmaps that we need to take into account to ensure that we actually deliver business results through our implementations. So what we're going to look at for the rest of my time, for the remaining 15 or so minutes, is the 5 key steps that we want to look at as we're implementing SAFe from end to end. 5 key steps, and those steps, when implemented the right way, with the right perspective, with the right mindset, would help us implement things the right way and eventually deliver business results. Are we ready? 5 steps, ready to dive in? Okay, let's go. First one, we got to start with generating buy-in. And here we're going to share with you, some of our experiences with clients that we have some permission to share some minor details about. Most of them we can't share the names of, but some, as we go forward, I'll actually disclose the names of as well, because we have permission from them. So this comes from our experience working with multi-billion-dollar manufacturing business that is based out of Europe. And they have huge presence in US as well. And I started working with them in 2017. And now you fast forward 4 years, they have a proficient SAFe model in their operations. And now as we look back and we see what is it that enabled us to successfully implement SAFe in our operations. And we asked some of our colleagues over there. Everybody has a similar response. What's the response? It was our ability to successfully generate buy-in from key stakeholders pre-transformation. Now that's the catch. Pre-transformation is the catch. Anybody here has experience with organizational change management, seen changes being implemented in organizations, implemented changes yourself? Quick check-in, raise your hand. Okay, many of us, Mansoor, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, Mansoor. Our ability to successfully implement changes, and David, you too, Naveen, Shobha, yeah. So our ability to successfully implement changes in an organization and deliver business results through those changes relies extensively on our ability to generate and maintain trust with our key stakeholders. Would you agree?
Absolutely, that's the key, Harry. I truly agree with you.
Right? Because it's not us who's going to be implementing changes, it's our people that are going to make those changes work. And have you noticed that people can make anything not work if they're not bought into it, right? They can find a way to give you all the logical reasons why something is not going to work, story points don't work, daily stand-up is not needed, PI planning is not needed, IP iterations are not needed. They can come up with all the logical reasons just because we've lost that trust and we haven't generated buy-in with the right people at the right time. And that's what we did. We selected 120 of the key stakeholders. Out of this was a big portfolio, 600 plus people. And we took them through a course called Leading SAFe that I believe most of you would have heard about. And we ran that 4 times for groups of 30 each. And this is a real photo on the left from one of those batches in 2017. So that is the step number 1. We got to start with generating buy-in from our key stakeholders pre-transformation. Good so far? Let's move on. Step 2 is to identify value streams. Now, Inbar hinted on and touched on value streams briefly. And what are value streams? And this comes from our experience with the US Air Force. We've done a lot of work with the US Air Force over the years, helped implement SAFe in many of their portfolios. It is to identify what our value streams are. What are those different ways we deliver something of value to an end customer? That end customer could be internal to the organization, could be a marketing person, could be an operations person, right? What are those different ways that we're delivering value to our customers? And that value typically, in our case, is delivered in some kind of a software or a system that solves a customer need. Now, when we identify value streams for a business, we typically come up with 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7, but 7 is pushing it. Most of the time it's in that 3 to 6 kind of range for a portfolio. We recently mapped out value streams for a $800 million federal government portfolio in the US, and $800 million, 6 value streams. Now, 6 value streams was what we identified. And that is like what our world is going to look like post-transformation. But if I was to show you that same portfolio in the current state, pre-transformation, you won't see those 6 value streams. You know what you would see? You'll see a box of noodles. Everything connected to everything. We got this platform team, they're supporting 74 different initiatives. Every developer is on 7 different project teams, and everybody's working on everything all at the same time. It looks more like a box of noodles, more as opposed to distinct value streams / factories, as we sometimes refer to them. Anybody resonate with that? Does your current portfolio for many of us might look like a box of noodles as opposed to distinct value streams, right, Mohammed? Right, and there is a structured way. And there is a structured way that SAFE has developed to identify what our value streams are, and then we can start to organize them. It takes 1 to 2 days for most portfolios, and we have to take into account 2 things. What are those 2 things? Infrastructure. What are our infrastructural dependencies? And number 2, people. Where is our people located? Who's doing what? What are the skill sets we got? What do we need on each of those value streams? What are shared services going to be? And so on. And taking those 2 things into account, we can identify our value streams. And that is step number 2. Now, it's an easy step to execute, but ironically, it often gets missed. This is a step that often most transformations miss. They're too keen to get something going, and they don't take these 1 or 2 days to map out what that future state needs to look like. So that's step number 2. With me so far? Okay, what do we think is the next step? Still nothing has changed. Yeah, Shobha, what do you think is the next step? The next step is going to be select typically the smallest of our value streams, and hopefully that also has a good opportunity for improvement. And we do what we call a value stream launch. Now, here's an example of a value stream launch. This value stream launch was done out of Hyderabad, India. And the reason it was done out of India was that's where the biggest chunk of our value stream was located. So this value stream was spread across 15 different countries. If you see this person up here, he's a release train engineer based in Dubai. There's people here from UK, US, Canada, South America, all over the place that flew into this room in Hyderabad for 2.5 to 3 weeks for what we call a value stream launch. And what do we do in those 2.5 to 3 weeks? Scrum masters get training on their roles, product owners get training on their roles, team members get training on their roles, and then we help them set up their backlogs, and we do our first PI planning meeting. In this case, this value stream was represented by a release train. And once that PI planning has been done, that's when we call a value stream has been launched. And this is something, again, that often gets missed. And even I personally embraced it the hard way. This is something that the individual that trained me on SAFE when I got involved, Richard Naster, passed on to me earlier on. And many of you probably know Richard Naster, right? He passed on to me earlier on. He said, Harry, if there is one magic bullet in successful SAFE transformations, well, he said, then there is many, but one of them is training. And if there is anything more important than training, then probably good training. Would you agree that moving from a waterfall kind of approach to a proficient SAFE model is a significant shift for our people? Would you agree? PI planning, retrospectives, daily stand-ups, inspect and adapt workshops, system demos, all of those things happening on an ongoing basis as compared to how things worked in a waterfall, phase-gated model, right? It's a pretty significant shift. Would there be a bigger shift that our team members would experience in their work style, in their careers? What do you think? It's pretty up there, right? So if it is such a significant shift, can we wing that shift?
Yeah, exactly. It would be a very bigger shift actually, because considering the start to end kind of waterfall model and then splitting everything into logical chunks and verifying every chunk is working or not. Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah, exactly. Right, Shiva? And the minimum we can do is train people on that shift. What is their role and how is their role going to evolve in that shift? And ironically, this also gets missed. This is what we see happening 50-60% of the time. Portfolios send 2 people to a 2-day training program, and then they ask those 2 people to come back and implement everything that they learned. Have you seen that happen? Give me a thumbs up in the reactions if you've seen something like that happen in your experience. 2 people sent to a 2-day training and asked to come back and implement everything and change the culture and change the organization and implement everything that they just learned last week. And they're also training the trainers and they're doing lunch and learn sessions on something that they most of the time don't even understand, right? How likely is that to succeed, Mohammed? Gonna be tough, right?
Yeah, you're looking at 0 to 5%. Your success rate is really bad, going to be really bad.
And that is why we have so many suboptimal implementations of SAFe, Agile, Scrum, all these things going on in our businesses. And there's a lot of scope for opportunity. And that is why people like you and I that can master the art of business agility and understand how we scale agility in an organization from end to end would have a huge competitive advantage in the market in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years as businesses evolve into maturing these practices. So that's step number 3, which is train teams and launch value streams 1 at a time. How do you eat an elephant? 1 value stream at a time.
Bit by bit.
What's that? Bit by bit, right? In our case, our bit is a value stream, right? We eat an elephant 1 value stream at a time. Now, once we have launched a value stream, that is the time when we're often at the highest point in our momentum. That is when we have generated the highest momentum towards change. And we got to hold on to that momentum and then build Scrum proficiency in our teams. And that is step number 4. And this, comes from our experience with a Canadian public sector healthcare company. And what does that mean? We're going to implement Scrum practices like daily stand-ups, help teams come up with their Kanban board, set up their limits, help them get going with sprint planning, iteration planning, retrospective, demos, all of those things. And it takes time. It takes a little bit of time and effort to get all of these teams up to speed. Here's a real report out that I did for one of the leadership meetings over there. Look at this, Squad 7. Scrum implementation, Jira complete. Now we have to go 1 team at a time and implement those Scrum practices, because what is that smallest building block of our portfolio? What is that machine that pushes work out in a scaled agile environment? It is our teams, right? It's our teams. So if our teams are broken, if our teams are not proficient, everything else starts to fall apart. We have to implement estimation practices, use of story points the right way. All of those things have to be done in teams, XP practices, test-driven development. And it takes time. It takes time, about 6 to 12 months for a team to become highly proficient in their approaches. And that is step number 4. Once we have launched our value streams, we got to build Scrum proficiency in those 5 to 11 people teams that we have. With me? That's step number 4. Finally, the last step, and that is the last quote unquote secret to business agility and successful safe transformations that stand the test of time, is our lean portfolio management approaches. And this comes from our experience with a US-based telecom company, multi-billion dollars in revenue. And this photo was taken after their first LPM meeting. And LPM boils down to just these three simple things. What are the three simple things? Changing our org structures and funding models, where we align our funding directly to our value streams, as opposed to our silos.
Projects.
Right? So silos, and then when we create a project, then that funding moves into that project one at a time. So aligning and creating those long-lived value streams. Sometimes we refer to them as factories of people. What is a factory? A group of people that can work together to deliver something of value to a customer. It's not just developers, it's not just testers, it's not just project managers. It's all of those people combined, organized as value streams. And we've got to change our cost centers to those value streams. That's the first thing. The second is looking at a streamlined approach to identify innovation and fund innovation. Because what's making us successful today would not keep us successful tomorrow. And finally, we got to have lean governance, which means governance approaches that enable agility instead of constraining agility. Governance approaches that track just the right amount of information, budget dynamically, support agile operations across different value streams. And if we can do these 5 simple things on a consistent basis, none of this is rocket science. Would you agree? It wasn't rocket science?
Harry, hi. Could you go back to the last slide, if I may ask a question? Actually, 2. The first point about the funding, relating the funding and the organization structure. Even now in non-agile organizations, there is always a funding allocated to a project. Is this different than that?
It is. Because projects are typically short-lived, Nimki, right? So projects are short-lived and they're temporary. When we're talking about value streams, we're funding capacity, not the work. In other words, you're funding people. So you put people on the payroll on that specific value stream, and then you send work to those people.
Okay.
And it's a shift. And it's a shift in thinking, right? If you want, we can chat more about this offline one-on-one at the end of the session today, and I can walk you through it in more detail. But I can give you the summarized view of it, that projects are funding work, right? We're trying to estimate that work and fix the scope and fix the timeline, and then we allocate some budget to that project. You with me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Now, what is the problem with that? If things start to change, we can't really change the project. Why? Because we fixed the scope and we fixed the timelines, and project managers are incentivized to avoid taking feedback and so on, right? So instead of that, what we want to move towards is funding that long-lived value stream of people, which is like a group of people that we put on the payroll and we keep sending work to them in the form of epics.
And one point I'd just like to add to what Harry mentioned here. Many a times we fix our budgets and things very, very early in the process. That adds a lot of risk. So when I go for a transformation, I ask people, when do you fix your budgets? They say, oh, we do it in business case. In a business case, have you ever even seen what is the worth of work being done? And they say, no, you're doing only 2 things. Either you're just making up your numbers or you're just trying to put your team under pressure, right? So I'm sure Harry would agree on this.
Interesting.
Totally.
Yeah.
But great question, Nimki. Happy to chat more if you like at the end.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right, so these 5 simple steps, generating buy-in, identify value streams, train teams and launch value streams, build team level Scrum proficiency, and then leverage LPM. These 5 simple things, when implemented the right way, actually serve as quote unquote secrets to successful, safe, agile, safe transformations, scaled agile implementations, because that is how we're able to align mindsets. That is when people start to think differently. That is when people start to show up at work differently. And that's when we get to see the magic of scaled agile implementations. And that's the only word I can think of. It's magical to see that shift once it happens, when people show up differently, when people collaborate differently, when people start solving problems and they engage in PI planning meetings and all those things. And that's when, you know, as one of my mentors, Roger Killen, who got me introduced to SAFe initially, he says, that's when we get to see the music of our release trains. And he would often also say this. He would say, Harry, we are in the business. Here's my release train. Here's my release train. And he would often say this, Harry, we're in the business of helping our release trains showcase their music like this. All right, let's stop here. Did that help? Good. Got some good ideas. Give me a thumbs up in the reactions if you got some good ideas out of it. I'll be excited to see those thumbs up. Thanks again, Shruti.
Most welcome. Great. Thank you so much for the great presentation. And thank you to all the attendees for making it so interactive. I think this just motivates us to have more such virtual events, and we can go on and on talking about different interesting topics.